Welcome to this week's episode of Are You Brave Enough? Today we're going to be talking to Christine Michaelis, who has a very interesting story about being brave enough to prioritize life. Welcome to Are You Brave Enough? Today, we're going to be talking to Christine Michaelis, marketing and creative startup coach, founder of the Creative Startup Academy, author of multiple books, public speaker, podcaster, and workshop facilitator. She has worked in marketing and advertising for more than 12 years before she decided to start her own business supporting startups. With her hands-on approach, she has helped hundreds of individuals validate their business idea and create successful startups, as well as working with small businesses, supporting them to get clarity and marketing in their business. She sees entrepreneurship as a way of life and loves the passion that comes from working in that industry. So welcome, Christine. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the warm welcome.
So you have a really interesting story that, from what I understand, happened pretty recently that makes taking risks or puts taking risks into a really different perspective, which is why we're calling today's episode, Are You Brave Enough to Prioritize Life? So why don't you start by telling us about that?
Yes, thank you. And thanking me for this opportunity to share this story, because I think the end result of prioritizing life can be done before something like that happens to someone, but most people don't. So that's why I like sharing this story. So a few years back now, I was actually based in the UK, so originally from Germany, but I lived in the UK for a long time. I went to a doctor. Actually, going back even further, for about 20 years, I have tinnitus. That is that ringing in the ears on both sides of my ears. There's lots and lots of research there, and I've done everything you can, done all kind of oxygen therapy and everything. There's a bit of a longer story there as well, that I'm able to manage that with mindfulness. However, that was actually the reason why I went to the doctors, because pretty much 20 years on, I was thinking, maybe there's something new. Maybe there's something new that came out that can help me with that even further. So I went to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, for everyone who doesn't know what that is. And he said, well, there's not really new things, but I would like to do a scan of your head to make sure that there's nothing wrong with your ears. I was like, okay, let's do a scan of my head. And you have to know, I'm a bit claustrophobic, so going into a tube and lying still is like a nightmare for me. But actually, I did that because, yes, why not? Checking if there's anything wrong with my ears. A week later or so, they had the results. I went to the appointment, and the doctor said, not the best doctor in delivering messages, really good news. There's nothing wrong with your ears, but you have a brain tumor. And I was like, my brain, I don't think it processed what this person was saying. I just heard, okay, everything's good with your ears. Obviously, the ears started ringing louder as soon as he said, but you have a brain tumor. And people might wonder why I can smile now, but it's a whole story. So that's a few years ago. And I was like, what do you mean? What? And he gave me like a name, a Latin kind of name that I wrote down and where it is. And basically he said, it's like behind the eyes, there's this pituitary gland, and around there, there's a tumor. But he can't tell me anything else about it because it's not his area of expertise. And I was like, well, don't tell me I have a brain tumor if you don't know anything about it. So obviously that was a bit of a shock to my system. First thing I did was going home, crying, and Googling what that is that I have. And as we all know, once you Google some symptoms, we all die always. And that was what it was saying. So if you have a sniff and you Google, you probably have, I don't know, the worst malaria all of a sudden and will die or something. So that's what happened. That didn't make anything better. I called my friend, my best friend, and said, I'm dying. And she's like, what? I said, I have a brain tumor. Oh my God. I'm really sorry for her because she was the first person I called. I didn't call my family because I didn't want to worry them. So after a while, after I composed myself, maybe a few days later even, I did call my mom and say, oh, there's something they found, but nothing to worry about. They need to investigate. And that was basically the beginning of the story.
Oh my gosh, that has to be just I can't even imagine. I got a phone call one time in the middle of the night with a doctor from an emergency room where my husband was, and he told me that basically my husband was dying. So I can get it a little bit. He wasn't, by the way,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
it was sort of one of those things where, again, the person delivering the news didn't really know what he was talking about. But it was yeah, that kind of stuff is just shocking. I mean, it just shocks you out of every normal part of your life, right?
Yes.
So what happens next? What
Yeah.
obviously you're fine, right? So it turned
I'm
out not to
fine
be a
now.
brain
Yes.
tumor, yes.
Exactly. So basically, so that was also at the time where I was overworked anyway already. I was very stressed because there was other health issues in family. I was overwhelmed. Then this message really pushed me close to a burnout. And I had to, for 3 months, luckily, let's say I had a private health insurance, which sped up the process a bit. 3 months is still a lot, but otherwise I would have probably waited a year for the end results. So 3 months I had to go to different kind of doctors and do scans, and again had to do a scan. Then they took lots and lots of blood for blood tests because it's on the pituitary gland, which is the gland that is responsible for all your hormones in your body. So they tested also all the blood and saw what's happening. And 3 months, basically, I thought, okay, and that's it. Probably I'm gonna die. Who knows how long and what happened? And then all these stories of they have to pull out the stuff through the nose if there's something, and all this worst things that you can imagine. And yes, like you just mentioned, after 3 months, they really the doctor was better in communicating as well, and he said, well, it's not a brain tumor. It's basically nothing that you have to worry about because it doesn't cause you any issues as well, because the only thing that could happen is that it pushes against the ice or something, but nothing like this. And I should just forget about everything that happened the last 3 months. And I was like, it's not what you forget.
That's crazy. No, it's not something you forget. So obviously that makes you, to your point, reprioritize your life. I mean, something like that really makes you stop and say, "Hey, wait a minute. What's going on?" Right?
Yes, exactly. And having your own business, like you and other listeners probably will know, is that you are your business and your life is the business. And that's what it was for me. I was working all the time. I didn't really take time off, and you start burning out slowly without realizing, because you enjoy it so much as well. I didn't have a strict working pattern. On holidays, I started working a bit here and there. Why not? It's my business and I love it. After this, I was like, okay, I have to prioritize my life. And that means my life outside of business, because I have two lives, like every entrepreneur should have, the business life and the personal life, and that they overlap, of course, and that you might get inspiration when you're on holiday and write stuff down. That's okay. But I made really sure I reprioritized everything. I have an extremely strict working pattern. I stopped working at 5. I start at 9. So the 9 to 5 job for me is my business now. Of course, there might be some exceptions. If I have some public speaking opportunities where I record later for my time, I might do an exception. But I have strict working patterns. I make sure that I do a lot of things that I enjoy in life that have nothing to do with my business, and treat it as a business. Of course, it's my baby, and of course I love it, and I'm extremely passionate about it, and love everything I do. However, I also love everything I do outside. And it took me a while to accept that and to really separate that and reprioritize things. And I've really learned that you have time for everything you want in life. It's always a matter of prioritizing. It's the same thing with I wasn't in a relationship, and I thought, I don't even have time for a relationship. How would I fit in someone into my life? Turns out I was able to. Once I've met the right person, all of a sudden you have time. And I bet everyone is also listening or watching, has the same thing that they can look back at, where they think, okay, I thought I would not have time for that. Then something happened, and all of a sudden I did have time for that. So I would really, really urge everyone to revisit everything that you're doing in life. Have a look what's really important to you. And this might change over time as well, being a bit flexible as well about your goals and things. And prioritize that. Prioritize spending time with your loved ones, and prioritize time with your partner. Prioritize things for yourself. Taking time for yourself without anyone. I appreciate that this might be a bit harder if you have children and a bigger family. It's easier if you have a partner. Yeah. And then just really reprioritize.
Yeah. And it's funny because, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it's easy to get very caught up in what you're doing. I mean, even with a corporate job, it's easy to get caught up and get into it. And you feel like, the business isn't going to survive if you're not watching it every second, right? We get that kind of control thing going on. And B, you sort of feel like, well, if I'm not working on it, what's going to happen? But to your point, those breaks, even though they feel like big risks often to us, right? As a business owner, it feels like a big risk to say, okay, I'm going to stop working at 5, right? Because we're taught, oh no, work. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you'll never be successful unless you work 100 hours a week and 7 days a week and blah, 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 blah. So it feels risky to step back. I know for me, traveling is really important. So I took 3.5 weeks off in February to go to Vietnam and Cambodia. And that felt like, oh my God, I'm going to walk away from my business for 3 weeks. How can I possibly do this? But I wanted to do it, and I don't regret it for a minute, because it was such an amazing, enriching experience. And my business is better off because I had that experience, right? And so I think what you're saying, when we prioritize life, it actually enriches all aspects of our life, even our business.
Exactly. And it is, like you say, it is taking risk, because you walk away maybe from something. It's about saying no as well. Walk away from another project, maybe walking away from another client. And that's risky for us to say no sometimes to things, because we might miss out on something. And maybe another client breaks away, and then you think, oh, would I have said yes to the other client? But in that moment, it wasn't the right thing to do, because it would have meant you would have worked overtime, whatever that is. But it is really taking risk, and it's also taking risks to enjoy other things more. Maybe you want to try things. Maybe you want to travel in areas where other people don't go. Maybe you want to skydive. That's taking a risk, and I think that's also great. It makes you a bit braver, I think, in everything that you do, because you want to enjoy life. And I'm not saying it was a near-death experience or something. It was just a shocking moment, let's say, and I got over it. Okay, and I want to share this to people, but you don't need a shocking moment to be able to do that. But most people do that only if they had a shocking moment. So really, 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 my message is, look at everything now, enjoy your life as much as you can. And there's no point saying, oh, we only have one life. Who knows what happens afterwards? People also believe maybe in reincarnation. That's all good, but you have that one life that you're in now, and you should really enjoy it. And it doesn't mean that you always have to be happy and all unicorns and rainbows and everything is great. There will be sad times, there will be difficult times, there will be challenges, but apart from that, really make the most out of everything. Savor your winnings, your joy, your happiness that you have in the moments, and make this time for the people that you want to make time for, including yourself, because this way you can really enjoy, and you take risk, but it's okay. It's for good things.
Well, I always talk about risk taking is a lot of how we create meaning and fulfillment in our lives. And meaning can be a variety of different things. We can express meaning and get fulfillment from things, from our business, from our work, from our impact on our clients, but we can also get it from our impact on the people in our personal lives and from experiences that we're having. So people often talk about, well, I've got a purpose and I have to fulfill my purpose. And I'm not invalidating that. We do have a purpose, but the purpose is usually so much more multifaceted than we give it credit for. We kind of get that tunnel vision. And I love that, I'm sorry that you went through that experience, obviously, because that's awful, but it's lovely that you came out the other side with this new appreciation for how to prioritize your life and how to prioritize your academy. So tell us a little bit about your academy and what you offer from the academy. I think you have a free offering someplace along the line there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the Creative Startup Academy is something that it was my business morphed into over the past 11 years, because that's when I started my entrepreneurial journey, taking the risk, let's say, quitting my job and take on this business, saying, okay, I'm going to do this. Let's see how I pay my bills, using all my savings and everything. And this all morphed into the Creative Startup Academy, which I made a place basically where you have live support by me. You have a community where you also get support, and you have all kind of resources, challenges, online courses. So everything that you can do in your own time when you want, 24/7. So a mix of all these elements, and for 3 pillars. And there were just 2 at the beginning, but again, this experience made me add a 3rd one. So like you say, going through something like that adds new perspective to things and inspires for new things in business. So my 3 pillars are basically starting out. So maybe you're overwhelmed and you need help with starting your business. You don't know what to do next, because at the beginning we absorb everything like a sponge. Also me, I was like this. You attend every free webinar, you sign up for every freebie and for any checklist, and you read 100 business books in 1 year and all of this, which is great, and everyone will go through that, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but that will slow down at some point, and you think, okay, I've read enough business books. Now I'm going to be very selective about the ones I want to read for the specific skills I want to do now. So that's what I'm focusing on, making it a bit easier, knowing what to do next. Then there's the marketing bit. So once you're ready and you want to take marketing a bit more serious and you want to put a plan in place, then you can do that with the help of the academy. And then the 3rd pillar, which is the one I just mentioned that I added after this experience, even much after, maybe 3 years later, the health and well-being bit, to make sure we take care of ourselves. There's a course about mindfulness in there, self-care challenges and things like that, because I think that really goes hand in hand with the success of the business.
100%.
And yeah, like you said, sorry, it's the free access. Sorry, I was getting to that. So I have free access to the academy and a paid version, but even in the free one, you already get lots of resources and the community as well.
That's really beautiful, and I love that you're giving back. I think that's certainly part of
Exactly.
our entrepreneurial journey is how are we giving back, and what are we doing to support people even beyond just the confines of our business. So I want to ask you about one more other little risk. Well, actually, it's kind of a big risk, but I asked you about this when we talked the first time. You have a little mascot for your business that's pretty unusual in the business environment.
Yes, it's Gavin. I have him here actually.
A little bit. I love the story of the mascot. Because not too many people have something this whimsical, I will say, but I love it. So tell us a little bit about your little friend that accompanies your business.
Yes, for sure. So you can see him here in a digital way on the desk sitting, and I just grabbed him. we have him here. That's Gavin, the unicorn. And I mean, in the startup world, we have the term unicorn, which is like the billion-dollar startups. I'm not about that. It's not about these people that want a quick sale of their company and have an exit. I chose the unicorn because they're magical creatures. I think they sparkle some happiness and smiles into the world with their golden unicorns. And he was actually a gift that I got whilst I was still working, but I already started with my business because I started while I had a full-time job. And he was gifted to me, and his name is Gavin, and he makes appearances in all the online courses, and like you see, always in a digital way somewhere. As like you said, not only my mascot, actually on my website I declare him as a co-founder. So I really have him as a co-founder. He's not very organized, he's quite philosophical and fun, but that's his role in the company. I'm more the structured one that can transfer the knowledge, even though he's very knowledgeable as well. Yeah.
Oh, that is too funny. But I love that you incorporate that in your business, that whimsical side, that fun and light and entertaining one. I mean, it actually goes, I know that you started that before you went through your experience to prioritize life, but in a way, he reminds us to prioritize life too, right? Because the unicorn is our dreams. The unicorn is that magical place that we often don't prioritize. And it's not just prioritizing our personal lives, but it's prioritizing the magic in our lives. And I love that. I think that was one of the things that most intrigued me when I talked to you, because wow, I love the whole unicorn thing. And it's kind of risky to put it out there in a world where everybody takes business very seriously, right? And so
Yeah.
I love that you decided to take that risk and bring that playfulness into your business and the magic, because that's obviously, our dreams are where the magic happens. And so for me, the unicorn represents sort of our dreams. I
Lovely.
mean,
Yes.
that's how I interpret it. So I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very kind of you to say that. And I think also it has to do also with authenticity. I mean, people should see the weird side of me, of everyone. I call it weird, strange, whatever you want to call it, whatever is the right word without maybe a negative connotation to it. Probably also because I'm not a native speaker. I like the word weird and call myself weird. But this way I can be authentic. I can really like express myself even in business in an authentic and fun and a bit of a jokey kind of way, but without losing that expertise level as well, and making it a bit more fun for people. And that's really, really important. And that can be sometimes really difficult for people shining through with their personality and everything they do in their business. And that's kind of my way into it.
Yeah, and I totally love that, because it does it brings out a different side of you. And we do take a risk when we're authentic and vulnerable. Absolutely. So I really want to thank you, Christine, for being my guest today. Everybody, please check out Christine's contact information in the show notes underneath. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you get to see more interviews with wonderful, amazing, wise people like Christine, who is the founder of the Creative Startup Academy. And she has been brave enough to prioritize her life in so many different ways. So we are so grateful for you to be here today, Christine. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for listening or watching.
Absolutely. All right, take care and join us next week for another episode of Are You Brave Enough? Loving this content? Are you brave enough to hit subscribe? I dare you to hit subscribe. Don't miss a single episode of Are You Brave Enough?